This footage is not fake. This is not a simulation. This is a real man voluntarily crucifying himself, submitting to torturers, and allowing nails to be driven through his hands. And this isn't his first time, it's his 26th. This man, Ruben Enaje, has been crucified 37 times to date. But he's not the only man to crucify himself. I have 4 fascinating cases of self-crucifixion, and they range from performance art to deadly. In 1986, Ruben Enaje nearly died. He was working construction and fell 3 stories down from an unfinished building. But not only did he survive, he was basically unharmed, something Enaje considered a miracle. From that day forward, Enaje pledged to take part in the San Pedro Qutud Lenten Rites, an annual Good Friday festival in the Philippines where participants are voluntarily crucified as an act of penance. Participants dressed as Romans wrapped Enaje's arms with cloth ties, sanitized nails with rubbing alcohol, and then drove them through his hands and feet. They lifted the cross, and there he hung, crucified. But this wasn't all for Enaje. He wasn't just crucified once, but has been crucified 37 times. The first 9 crucifixions he underwent as thanksgiving for his miraculous survival. The next 9 he underwent to petition God to heal his daughter from asthma. And the next 9 he underwent for the health of his wife, at which point he said it would be his last. But that doesn't add up to 37. Enaje has been crucified yearly for a decade past his decided finale. He is now a staple of the festival, playing Jesus in their very real passion play, and has not found a replacement. Enaje is not the only person to take part in these rites. At least 2 others are always crucified with him to play the 2 thieves that were crucified with Jesus. Frequently, more volunteer, not just at San Pedro Qutud, but at other festivals throughout the Philippines. Baboy Dioniso was crucified annually for 16 years, seeing visions each time. Rolando Ocampo has been crucified over 24 times to thank God for saving his wife in childbirth. As one could expect, the Catholic Church does not approve of these practices. Crucifixion, self-flagellation, and other physical penance is practiced across the Philippines. The Church derides these practices as spiritual vanity, and especially does not condone the idea that these acts in any way pay for the sins of the penitents.
Yung pagkapako, talagang masakit. Pero mas masakit pag binuhat yung binuhat na yung pako. Ay, talagang...
Another performance crucifixion took place at Venice Beach, California in 1974. Performance artist Chris Burden lay on his back on a Volkswagen Beetle, where his lawyer drove nails through his hands into the roof of the car. The Beetle was rolled out of the garage in front of a crowd of his friends. The engine roared at full throttle for 2 minutes before the car was rolled back inside and the performance ended. This is just one of the danger pieces Chris Burden became known for. His master's thesis at UC Irvine was called 5-Day Locker Piece, where he was locked in a locker for 5 days. In another, he recorded himself firing a pistol at a 747 outside LAX. And perhaps his most famous, called Shoot, he had a friend shoot him in the arm with a .22 at an art gallery. On July 19, 1805, a Venetian cobbler nailed his left hand to a homemade cross and lowered himself out of his 3rd-story bedroom window. He had already placed a crown of thorns on his head and punctured his side. He hung there, crucified for hours, before he was spotted in the early morning and rescued. This was the 2nd time Mattio Lovat had crucified himself, and his last. His first crucifixion was stopped by passers-by, while he was driving a nail through his feet in the middle of the street. Lovat's brother interrogated him for the motive, but he gave none, other than that day was the festival of St. Matthew. Proto-psychologists diagnosed him with religious delusions. After recovering, he was interned in the asylum at St. Servolo, where he died of disease less than a year later. He never revealed why he crucified himself. Kim Jun-Bong was found dead on May 1, 2011. His body was found choked, stabbed, and crucified in an abandoned stone quarry. The police would find his death a suicide. The scene was gruesome, and be advised this next section will be especially graphic. The cross was miniature, enough for Kim to be kneeling while crucified. His hands and feet were nailed to it, but he was largely suspended by cloth and rope wraps, supporting his arms and around his neck. He had a stab wound in his right side and a crown of thorns on his head. To both sides were smaller crosses representing the thieves, and in his tent, a paper with Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Investigators also discovered detailed instructions of how it was logistically possible for Kim to do this entirely by himself. After a recreation, they determined it was possible as follows. Kim first drove the upper nails into the cross, and then prepared the supporting cloth ties. He placed the crown of thorns on his head and got into position. Next, he nailed his feet to the cross, then stabbed himself in the side. Then he picked up a drill. He bored holes through both of his hands, and then threaded his arms through the supporting ties and pushed his hands backwards onto the nails. As he bled, he lost consciousness and fell forward, asphyxiating on the rope around his neck. The police still investigated suspects on the possibility of murder, but there was no evidence that anyone was there that day except for Kim. No substances were detected in Kim's blood, so his required willpower and pain tolerance had to be immense. The only fragment of a motive came from Kim's friend, who said that Kim had once said that he should become Jesus Christ. It's hard to imagine what would be going through someone's head that would enable them to drive a nail through their feet, then their hands, then suffer the pain and ordeal of hanging on a cross. There is a real through line, though, and that is performance. Enaje performs as Jesus in a passion play before he goes through his ordeal. Chris Burden is a performance artist and not only snapped a picture of his crucifixion, but had a gaggle of friends watching. Lovat could have crucified himself in his bedroom, but both times made sure he was in public. And while Kim went to a secluded spot, he left a lurid scene full of symbology for investigators and journalists to paw through. The vast majority of other, less interesting instances of self-crucifixion take place as protests. They are purposefully designed to be as attention-grabbing as possible. The Christian ideal is to be Christ-like. Recreating Christ's penultimate moment is clearly an attempt to get as close as possible to Christ in one dramatic and gory act. But the drama gets in the way. Like Archbishop Socrates Villegas said of the Filipino Crucifixions, the question is, if you nail yourself on the cross, will it increase your love for your neighbor? If you do it for photographs, for you to be famous, then that becomes spiritual vanity. It seems clear that in all of these cases, being like Christ was as important, or secondary, to being seen like Christ. This, of course, suffers from availability bias. Any case of undiscovered, private self-crucifixion undermines this idea. But we don't know what we don't know, and self-mutilation is so lurid as tabloid fodder, so I doubt there's many cases. But I don't want to disparage Ruben Enaje and the other Filipinos who celebrate Christ in this way. It is shocking and heterodox, but it is venerating, and requires strength of spirit, will, and faith that is truly admirable. And ultimately, that is Christ's virtue in the Passion.